path of devastation. You should live for all the hype.
And so with that right now, welcome to today's video. We are gonna talk about NOFAP. There was a video or two that I made on this channel that got super big, and I wanted to update you a little bit on how it has been going since then, how my opinion maybe changed, and why I quit, probably you could say, NOFAP for the most part. Basically, for everyone who's new, it's kind of like, let's say, a movement on the internet of people who want to better themselves, and NOFAP stands for not jerking off, not masturbating. So it's actually quite, let's say, an intimate topic, a topic that not that many people talk about, and I think this is also where quite kind of like this big interest lies. Very often I talk to people, and I like to not put like any filters on myself in my conversations, because also like around a year ago I found myself in a situation where probably more like 7, 8, 9 months, yeah, whatever, a year ago, where I just felt like I was numbing myself. I was just trying to escape the reality of me really wanting to change my life, having the chance to change my life, but not really doing it. I was basically, I wanted to live the life that I'm sort of live right now for the most part, but I just couldn't make the really hard decisions that I had to make back in the day. And so I was jerking off a lot, watching a lot of YouTube videos, not going out that much. Fitness was somewhat so alright. Everything was kind of slow, and all the time I also felt just drained in energy. So this is kind of like what the NOFAP movement promises you, is that because you give yourself all the time this dopamine spike, you reward yourself all the time for basically inaction, for basically not doing much in your life. And if you cut that out, and I definitely noticed that, this is what I filmed the video before, you on the one side just have a little more time. Like it's the reality. A lot of people are like, oh well, that's not a big problem. A lot of guys, especially young guys, they do that 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. It can be quite time consuming, and also I personally notice is the more you get into that, the more you kind of want to do it, and everything like, oh yeah, I feel something, let me just like run into the bathroom and do my thing. It's quite the thing, and I kind of like seen quite a big challenge in it, and I started to dip into it, did a little bit here for a few weeks, and then I was like, you know what, let me really do the experiment, let me really do the test. And this is also what I did the video on about, where I got a lot of feedback. You can check it out, NOFAP for 90 days. And 90 days in terms of like 90 days I really focused on it. Maybe I did it like 3, 4, 5 times. I don't even really count it, because I don't think you need to be like super like strict about it. And this, I think, is also one of the issues with a lot of people that are really doing it. I was seeing people, and to some extent I was even practicing semen retention, is something that I've been looking into in the past few months. Quite an interesting topic, basically having intimacy but not coming all the time, just to kind of like keep up a certain level of energy. We all know that when we're done, it's kind of like just you hang out there, you chill. A lot of guys, even especially if you're not with the right person, you almost feel a little depressed. I'm sure every guy who was kind of like, just like, yeah, let me party, let me just see people that are not necessarily the best for me, or let's say not a good match, and then you're just like, what have I done? You're like a werewolf, like, full moon, you're like, oh, and then you just, okay, this is too much right now. It's actually from a Joe Rogan podcast. It was super funny. That so these 90 days, November I pulled through completely. I was just like, no, not November last year, completely didn't do anything in terms of not ejaculating, intimacy, yes, but not that much, and also didn't semen retention all throughout the month. And my finding, whoa, God, camera almost fell. That's not good. A little windy here on the roof. So my finding was that while it was quite the interesting experience, after a few weeks, overall my drive to do it just decreased, and the benefits that I experienced in the first few weeks of just having more energy, and basically, let's put it the way it is, just being a little bit more horny, being a little bit on the go all the time, being like that's where energy is coming from, and I think that's an amazing way to actually channel that and use it in the right way. So instead of like running into the bathroom, giving yourself the dopamine spike, looking at all of the imagery, which I did a video on, where I think it's not good for your mental health to see all the time amazing looking people. Basically, making love would be the wrong word. Having sometimes very hardcore intimacy. It creates performance anxiety. It creates deep subconscious inferiority complexes, because what you see there, especially as a guy, usually is something that you cannot match up with. And so for me personally, that's something that I actually cut out 99%. If I would wanted to pop a clip, if I just feel like it, I'm talking about pornography right now, whatever. It's really about being able to moderate yourself. And this is when I also want to get into the biggest problem, really the biggest problem that I see with the NoFap movement. But throughout November, I've seen that kind of like the benefits faded over like 2, 3, 4 weeks. And also it really didn't feel healthy. Then when I maybe did come, it just didn't feel right. And also after reading into it, definitely you should, let's say, kind of like renew your production of semen. So it's definitely not a productive thing to do that for such a long time, and it also might cause health issues at some point. So I would definitely say the biggest thing that I see in it, and this is going to be a separate video that I'm going to film of why I think it actually works. Basically, the basic gist of it is that if we set out to do something that is quite challenging for us and we pull through with it, we're gonna feel good about ourselves, and that can create a downward spiral and a momentum of doing more. So let's say if you set out to make your bed and you make your bed, you're like, good, I make my bed. If you set out to clean up your room, you clean up your room. If you set out to not jerk off, you not jerk off. And for a lot of guys, it's just like they're just like I talked to a few guys, like let's say in Bali, or like just like in the past few weeks and months of traveling, just when it came to personal development, I talk a lot and these topics come up. And they were like, whoa, that's crazy, that's kind of insane. And that's where I also again noticed that it is a real thing. We don't necessarily have to call it a real problem, because if you feel like you're on top of your life, you're on top of your game, you feel energetic, you feel like you have amazing relationships, amazing. But if you feel like you're just sitting at home and you're just popping in little movies and you're just playing with yourself, I think there's just more to that, and we all know that. Like if you're cool with that, damn, you're living the life, and I'm proud of you. If you really like what you're doing, but the thing is with a lot of guys, they really don't like the situation, and this is where I think it actually can really help to cut it down and to minimize it. And this is kind of like my approach right now. And with that, actually, this topic though brought me on to listening a podcast of London Real. He had a guest on where they have been talking in general about sexual education, a little bit of Eastern philosophy, tantric practices, and there he talked about really the fact that if you also, Dave Asprey, let's say biohacking, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, he talks about that too, that there are some findings that do suggest that ejaculating too often does decrease your energy levels, and personally, I experienced that all the way. So the way I go about it is jerking off is very limited, and definitely not from a bad place. This, I would say, is also a very big thing, is to monitor the things we do to distract ourselves from boring times and also, let's say, painful times. Like whenever we feel like bad about ourselves, we should not, numb it with something. We should not do like super entertaining things to numb ourselves. So we can do things to cheer us up, maybe go hit a gym, feel the blood flowing, get new thoughts, and also this like idea of like bad thoughts are not us, they're thoughts flowing through us. So it's good to change up the activity and do something that will make you feel good about yourself, which usually is not jerking off for the most part. And yeah, so this is kind of like my wrap up as of right now. I think a lot of guys that are doing it are way too strict about it, in a way, beating themselves up if they cannot do it. And it's the same thing with other habits, like the 5 a.m. habit, like wanting to get in shape. I feel like a lot of people have a hard time striking the middle ground of holding yourself accountable but also forgiving yourself and being easy on yourself and cutting yourself some slack. And I feel like I'm definitely sometimes also a little bit too harsh on myself. I'm like, I haven't been on my A game, I haven't been on the 100%, no good. But then I'm like, whenever I do screw up, and I really screw up where I really feel bad about myself, I'm like, wow, you screwed up, you feel bad about yourself, but it's okay. Everyone has that, even the best players in the game, and it's fine to do that. Tomorrow is a new day, and I think it's also very important, if you're watching right now this video and you found it because you have been just watching it for this topic, maybe you watched my previous video on it, or maybe it's just the first time you get connected to this idea and you're playing with the thought. It's about using this as a tool and not as a life philosophy, not as something new to believe in, and using it as a tool for then the extra energy that you get and the extra time that you get to use and implement that into maybe hitting the gym, maybe going out and socializing, maybe go out and do approach that girl, or let's say we need to prime our focus on the actions that we are intending to take. What's going on here? Coronavirus breaking out in Bangkok. Right now it's 2020, so that's kind of like a big thing. Don't worry, it's pretty chill here. And yeah, to wrap up today's video, I would say there is a good bit through it. To it. I think there should be less... Oh, God, what's going on? I think there should be generally less stigma about it, that we can just openly talk about these things and about how people feel, and especially this is more, let's say, of a guy topic in a circle of guys, just not like there to get advice, but just to openly talk about things, be able to exchange. And for me, actually, since I did this experiment, I also tried to like complete it like for a week or something, like, you know what? It sounds silly, but like, let me do pretty much more or less the opposite of it, and let's see the effect. And then I was thinking that I'm kind of like above the process. I was thinking, you know what, maybe there is nothing to it. But then I've noticed a huge difference again in energy levels. Overall, you don't care about anything that much, because sexual energy is a very, very big thing. And right now in society, it is more of a thing of like, yeah, you like have your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or maybe you're like hooking up, you're like partying, and it's for fun and games, and then maybe you can make a baby one day. But the way that I look at it is that it is such a big part of our life. If you look at statistics, guys think about sex like pretty much every second. Girls, very, very similar actually. It is such a big part of our lives, and it is such a big driving factor. The way our brain operates is on survival and reproduction. So every thought of ours and every action of ours is matched up with survival and reproduction. And I know a lot of people are gonna say, no, oh, that's not true, we're not that primal, we're not animals, we're actually, you know, we're above that. We can actually think about things like the community, other people, and what is good to do for your family. Well, that's reproductive. That's indirect better reproduction for your tribe, for your society, the survival of your race. You see where I'm coming from? If you really go down the rabbit hole, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, those are all just things to build an awareness for. So with that, I hope you enjoyed today's a little bit more of an edgy topic than NOFAP, a little bit of an update for me, the way I go about it. And so to wrap up today's video, I would say use it as a toolbox, use it as one of the many things you keep track of, you keep in mind, and you monitor it and you match it up with the results in your life. Sometimes keep more attention to it if you feel like there is need, but at the end of the day, it's just a tool, it's just one of the many things that you use to get the results out of your life that you want to have. Feel better about yourself, about your life, and the impact that you are making and the growth that you are able to have. And with that, thank you very much for watching, and until next time.